All right, call to order, recording, taping, notification. As required by law, the town may audio or video record this meeting. Any person intending to either audio or video record this open session is required to inform the chair. Old business. Minutes.
Almost done.
Okay, that's fine.
And I'm in progress.
You're in progress.
That's
January,
quick.
December.
Yeah, and Walter,
Yeah.
and
I felt bad.
Walter, you revised
Revised.
yours, so it's fine.
I revised the title,
Yeah, yeah,
but
that's
Fran
fine.
wanted me
I'm
to.
almost done with mine. I'm waiting for one letter.
Okay, because
I
now,
got it from
that's fine. So,
Trish.
we're approving from 2/18. Is that when you did them?
No, that's mine.
That's
This
yours.
is- I was
I'm all-
previous.
this-
Oh, you were,
January 3rd, no.
Oh, it was
okay,
from the
okay,
last one.
February.
12/17, 19?
Yeah, I guess,
12
yep.
when
No,
was it?
12/17 was the ones that I was doing because Sarah isn't with us anymore, so
Right.
I'm
Oh.
doing those.
Oh, it was the one after, it was after that.
Hang
That
on,
was,
I'll
which
find-
was, yeah, I probably have it there. January 9th.
January 9th?
January 9.
That's right. Okay. You want to approve the minutes and second it?
But you can't because we don't have them done.
Oh, it's not down?
No, we don't have
Oh.
any of these done, right? Is that what you
Yeah,
just
no,
said?
1/9's
Oh,
done.
sorry.
That's
That- I
revised,
forgot
but
to put
yeah.
on this one.
Got it.
Yeah, but we're waiting on 12/17, 2/18, and 2/27.
Move to approve.
The
Okay,
second.
Second? Okay, great. Again, our old business is plainly audible definition, revise, keep is. You want to hash this out and try and get a vote through? on this.
Back from the businesses?
Did you hear back from anyone? No.
You,
Jake, did you hear?
No,
Mhm.
nothing new.
they
to
sent
report.
you last night? They sent-
Yeah, for correspondence.
Okay,
Mhm.
that was their response to the
Okay.
noise thing.
All right. You want me to read it now?
Yeah.
Sure. All right, this is from Taylor and Sarah Powell. I got it last night. Dear Angela and Harwich Noise Committee, a big reason this committee was established was to reduce the amount of people calling to complain to the police and reduce the waste of resources by having the HPD chase noise violations regularly. By adopting any sound from a source regulated by this bylaw that can be detected above routine or normal ambient background noise by unaided hearing would increase the calls and complaints. If enforcement interprets this definition literally, then all callers will be able to create violations whenever they wanted. The police do not need to be spending more time chasing these calls. Punishment for those in violation should be determined by hearing officers. If the, quote, if you can hear it, unquote, new law were to come into effect, then no businesses should have music. It's virtually impossible to have outdoor entertainment and have people not able to hear it. Moving forward, we're installing new improvements to our infrastructure to help mitigate sound levels by dampening the sound level on our patio. In addition, we're going to control the live music and the levels of sound it produces from our establishment. Thanks and regards, Taylor and Sarah Powell, Perks. Any
So.
comment on that?
Yeah, so being able to hear something is supposed to be measured at 150 feet from the boundary, so it's not, they can still have music
Right.
within it. The good news is, I've talked with some people over the past few days, people right down and close, and I think people want to play nice. I think the residents don't want to get on the phone to the police right away. They want to try to work with them. I've spoken with some who've had a lot of problem. They're willing to, they don't plan to call unless it's very loud, far beyond the 150. They are willing to call Perks first, prior to calling the police, and at least one time to work through it. And they seem to be willing to, this is outside our charge, but seem to be willing to allow me to work sort of as a go-between and try to help them establish standards if they want to use decibel monitor. So it looks like people want to play nice.
That's good.
And it's not just them, it's I think everyone around.
Yeah.
No one, my own personal experience, we were getting blasted all through 2018. Every time we heard the first bit of noise, we'd go into fight or flight mode. We didn't know if it was going to keep on getting louder or what.
Okay.
2019, we didn't hear it at all. No, we did not hear it at all. We heard it, but much less frequent. And so when I'd hear it, I wasn't fight or flight mode. It was
Mhm.
like, okay, I can live with it one night a week, and I'd, hear Jay, and, I wouldn't, it would bother me, but it wouldn't bother me that much, right? So, and I think that will happen across the board. Everyone will just, if we bring the noise down and we tone it down,
Mhm.
then I think people will stop getting hyped
Mhm.
about it.
That's right.
So I think it's, we heard Bob Nickerson emailed that same chart out to residents,
Mhm.
and he got 52 responses,
Mhm.
and there were three choices, the three choices,
Mhm.
like no change,
Yeah.
the middle choice, and the enhanced
Yeah.
definition, and it was unanimous, everyone wanted the enhanced definition. So,
Now,
That's fine.
was that a random amount
no,
of
there's
people?
an email chain of people who signed, who petitioned for the committee,
Mhm.
and they all responded, or not they all, there's like 2/3 of them responded. And,
But of those 2/3, it was a unanimous.
right,
Mhm.
right. My sense, and Fran, I think, agrees, and residents may jump all over us, is that the big difference between in residents' minds, and I haven't talked to residents about this, what's in their minds, the big difference between the middle version and the enhanced version is the lyric standard. And I think if we can do the middle version, and I don't know how this would work, but maybe a directive to the police not to exclude the lyrics test, I think residents will be fine with that. They ought to be. So I don't know how that would play out for the chief. I don't know if there's a big difference between the two for you, or what.
Well, I said this last week, right? I said, I believe the intent was to parrot the full language out of the anti-noise bylaw. That's where that language came from, and it almost all matches, except for saying any sound, right? So that's your middle version. As I said last week too, there is nothing written anywhere that says cops have to hit lyrics in a song. They settle on that themselves in a
Mhm.
reasonable manner, trying to apply reasonableness to, okay, what exactly does play the audible mean to me as a person standing here? For better or for worse, that's where we arrive, right? So I don't think there's any question, however, that if you go with the language from the anti-noise bylaw, you are going to have more violations. There is no question about it, because it is any sound. And that automatically, by definition, will say, okay, any sound, it's not, do I have to hear it constantly? No. Do you hear the thumping of the bass? That's any sound,
Right.
yes, violation. Do I hear one, loud exclamation over the PA system? Any sound, yes, highly audible. So we are going to have multiples of violations. I would say it's just a rough guess, triple the amount we've had. If the calls continue the way they have. Because, we had, I've got the numbers as to how many times we have actually gone to establishments and how many violations resulted. So Ember in FY in 19 was 19 times we went there, but that only resulted in 8 violations. You can pretty much bet that unless it's completely quiet on arrival, that every single one of those trips is going to result in a violation. For better or for worse, and it's going to be at the other establishments too. So, like I said last week, I believe the language is supposed to be, the intent of doing it that way was to have that anti-noise bylaw language in the regulation. Now, maybe Michael can speak to, if he remembers anything about the intent at that time, but it's going to result in more violations. So I'm going to go back to my original statement from last week, which is we can change the definition of playing the audible, but if compliance doesn't get forced, like in other words, you said, well, if the volume just comes down, that's the whole problem. Like, people are not complying with turning the volume down, right? So,
But we've already seen people start to comply better, right? We've seen it all through the summer. We've seen people starting to comply better. And I think the violations will only occur if they stay at the levels they were at, this is my opinion, if they stay at the levels they were at the peak noise, right? It seems to me that businesses are aware of what's going on and are willing to bring it down. Residents are willing to be a little more lenient, and I've seen, I think we've all seen, that it's possible to have the venues, each one of them can be fairly quiet if they put their mind to it. And it's not that difficult, 'cause we've seen it repeatedly. You see that at Perks all the time, we've seen that at Port, but you don't see it when they have a big show, but you do see it when they have the smaller things. And I think this still provides, you know, if they do want to have bigger sound, then they have to take the steps like Taylor and Sarah were talking about. They have to provide new mitigation, or bring it inside at the other establishments. You know, I think you're probably right. If it continues the way it's going, we're still going to have a lot of violations, but I think people are trying to make it work, both businesses and residents. And residents just are not going to be comfortable without having a firm, plainly audible definition. They want.
Say that. Everybody that has been in communication with me, which is probably pretty much the whole list that you both deal with, absolutely 100% on board with that. That is one of the main issues. And you know, and I think it's because they don't like it when a police officer shows up and says that's not a violation in my opinion.
Right.
So, but if you go with the middle definition, it's going to be violation. And not necessarily have a problem with that, as long as there's going to be action taken as a result of those multiple violations that forces compliance, so everybody's happy. You know, because again, our guys are stuck in the middle.
Right. You guys.
The residents who are upset, and businesses feel they're being, targeted by hostile.
Right.
So, it's a very contentious issue.
You guys are in a no-win situation.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, God, we're just right back.
Jeez.
Is there a way that we can start with the middle definition and then gauge where we're at middle of the season?
I mean, I think it's something everyone votes on, correct?
Yeah, you vote for it.
You vote for it.
We can vote, but my personal opinion is that once you go this route, you're never going back. You're not going to get more lenient. It's just not going to happen. You know what I mean? It's just human nature.
I mean, I came tonight thinking, after talking to you previously and looking at what you've done with his neighbors and stuff, I think is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And I was ready to vote for that middle one, just because I think there should be a definition. But the problem is, when you define something, that's easy to define. I can't hear it, basically. But there's no way to define noise above that level unless you do, like saying, oh, I'd like it a little higher, but not loud, just I can hear it a little bit, that's fine. You can't define that. That's the problem. So it can't be written into a law unless it was, hooked up to meters or whatever it's done. So I was ready to say, okay, let's go with that. But now, listen to what the chief said. You've put me back, this is just going to, I think if you set the bar so low, which it is, I mean, maybe not to everybody, it's not too low, it doesn't take much to shut it down. And I would like to believe that the neighbors don't want that also. And they want to work with everybody and get it done, which I think would have been great if that had happened before a committee was formed. They could have got everybody in a room and said, or like work with each business, the neighbors that are close to it, and say, guys, that's way too loud tonight. Let's, can you turn it down? Let's come to a resolution individually, and same thing on the west side of Main Street, working with the neighbors that are complaining and saying, it's not, let's get a little lower, no, that's too loud, go a little lower, and then get to the idea and everybody be happy with that. But once we put it in law, then it's just like, I can't stand this, I can hear it, it's just driving me nuts. I wanted to be good, but I can't. you know, and I hope that they would, you know. So I don't know, I'm torn again. I'm back to being torn. I mean, I know what our charge is, and I know that, you know, technically was left out probably because of a technicality and so forth. So I don't really know what to do. Really don't.
I lost my train of thought.
Honestly, so.
Can I just
Yes.
add one thing? I didn't mean to sway you.
No, but.
But also, in all reality, what have the neighbors got out of this? Who is speaking for the neighbors, and what concessions have they got other than the police responding and clocking violations and putting them to the board? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, this is something that they clearly want.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's because of the level of frustration of not being heard, no pun intended.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
That's just my take on it.
I agree. It's just gotten too far.
So we've done it for 3 years without a definition. Can we try it for 1 year with, and see if we can hit a happy medium somewhere? Because that was the original intent. And if we do that, the outdoor music scene in Harwichport is still going to be, for an in-town music scene, still going to be the biggest around. I mean, you go to Nantucket, it's the next one over, but it's quiet in town, because those are like places like the Cape Sea Grove. Imagine, it's like the kind of music you have at their patio.
Yeah.
Or
That sounds nice, I don't think that's necessarily how it'll unfold. I think you say, oh, it's gonna be fine, it's still gonna be the best around, but if it affects it over time and it doesn't, we're gonna look back and say, why did we do that? We had something really great going and we totally screwed it up. You know, that's something else that could happen. There's no definite on what's gonna happen when you vote a certain way on the definition.
so neighbors think it's screwed up now. Neighbors are feeling driven out of the.
And some neighbors don't. Some neighbors.
No, for sure,
you know, like,
But the ones that are being forced out do feel that way. And I don't think that was the intent of what the original agreement was. I think they're trying to come up with some middle ground, some reasonable standard where neighbors and businesses could coexist. And we haven't found that. With the existing setup, we can't coexist. So that's the problem. And if we can figure out a way that this standard, some other standard, we had 52 residents in the off-season respond to this. That's a lot. And there's another 24 in West Harwich having similar problems.
I have no idea who these people are, so, you know,
They're-
I don't know who they are. I have no idea.
We've seen a
Bob-
handful
Yeah,
of the
here,
faces,
but I
that's
mean, I
it,
don't-
yeah.
yeah.
We've seen a
Bob can
handful.
provide a list of names, or he can
No,
speak
it's
now
a-
if you want
No,
to let him speak now.
I don't need to know people, but I just, you know, you
They're
say.
for real. They're real people.
Are they?
Oh, I lied, huh?
They are real people.
Nice.
No, I'm not implying you are, I just don't know who they are. I mean, there's an email chain that we don't know anything about, and
We
I have
can
no
pro-
idea.
I'm
you know.
sure Bob can provide the list of names. It's not.
Oh,
No, I
yeah,
don't.
I mean, we don't need a list, it's just, all of a sudden, we've got 52 people or 53
It's
people.
not all of a sudden. We've had 70 people.
But I didn't know, I mean, none of us knew, really, you guys knew.
70 people petitioned for this committee. And
And
they're all
And there
listed.
are also petitions that the Board of Selectmen have that people also signed at many venues that said that they love what is happening.
Right.
So those never ever got addressed either. So that, you know, it's great that the residents are feeling that they can come out, and the businesses have started to. The businesses have also sent in this email. I know that the other venues are looking at the things that they're going to do. So I'm almost inclined to say, okay, let's try it one more year, but with things that can be, how compliance can be enforced. Add that piece to it. So that,
Try which one?
The first.
the first.
So-
And then,
So there's just so many problems with that. Just flip the page and just look at all the problems with that. You can have compliance to what? There's no standard. Everyone will comply to a standard where it's the lyrics test, and that's doesn't fly. It just doesn't fly.
Not necessarily. That was the police or his guys coming up with the lyrics test.
So they need.
They don't necessarily have to hold themselves to it.
And the cop's not going
You
there
know?
saying, oh,
If
I don't know what
they-
song this is. Oh, what's the chorus? It's
But
just
actually,
they hear.
that actually was what was happening for some callers. That was my
You witnessed that
understanding.
happen?
No, I was told that.
I'm willing to believe that it's probably not how it happened.
So do you think, I know this got shot down when we first started meeting. Is there any way we could just have like a neighborhood forum with the neighbors, the businesses, just to, not to hash out the old stuff and get mad at each other, but to say, going forward, can you guys pick a few people and we can, the first weekend, Memorial Weekend or something, just see how it goes and try to come up with something that seems like that's too loud. Okay, we're willing to live with this side, like Bob, you could do it down at the east end, and you could be over here at the west end, or whoever's behind there, that person you talked about on C Street, and
I mean, if they're all also saying that they're gonna turn it
Get
down.
'em together
And
in
what
a-
everyone wanted was to have it turned down too.
get them together in a room and just say, hey, we want to work this out.
Well,
We
this
don't want to
is-
shut you down.
Isn't that what this is, what we're doing?
No, this is what it is, but we don't have the neighbors here. I
Yes.
mean, other than that, and we don't have music going, so it's not like we can all go down there and
Right.
say, yeah, this is ridiculous, this is way too loud, and, because, it would just, if there was a lot more as we talked before, communication, if they're willing to talk to the businesses, as long as they have a good number and a person that's there, that's the manager they can talk to, that they can say that we'll actually act on it. I know it's got to be on there, lots on the businesses to comply with this, and I think hopefully it does get turned down. And but if we put something in the law that's such a low bar,
But, so, I am not convinced that to interrupt you.
no, go ahead,
Okay,
sure.
So, I don't think it is that low bar. We're talking about 150 feet, right?
True.
From the boundary, which in some cases adds another 100 feet or
True.
more. And that's like 150 is half a football
That's
field.
true.
250 is almost a whole football field.
Right.
And you can't hear a brass band at that distance. Or you can barely make
Right.
it out, right?
Right.
And that's pretty loud. Now, when you get
I agree with you.
Yeah. So amplification is the big problem. But no, there's a lot of problems, right? But I was standing. My wife and I went to the Orleans parade, and a brass band goes by. 25 people go by. And it's pretty loud. The next truck that comes by, there are three guys with some guitars and some amplification. It blew them away. There's just like no comparison. And brass bands used to be a standard for loudness. And I've been to football games. You can barely hear them if they're facing the wrong direction, right?
Right.
So I think that 150 foot from the boundary is perfectly adequate for pretty light music. It ought to be. There's going to be flare-ups with wind and flare-ups with like acoustic angles,
Right.
and neighbors, sitting in a different part of their yard on different nights. But I think that's really pretty ample for light music, and it's everywhere else up and down the Cape. When it gets bigger music than that, it goes inside, right? I mean, and there are plenty of places. And the other thing is, like, there are plenty of restaurants up and down the Cape and in Harwich which do a real good job without outdoor entertainment, period, right? And
Oh,
it's
yeah.
like, so it does help, there's no question, but,
It's just a vibe that's brought into town, which is kind of cool.
oh, for certain, but not if you're,
Yeah, I know.
Right.
At 150 feet.
Okay, so let's just reel this back in. I kind of want to see where we are with this definition. Like can we do an informal vote? See where we are?
sure.
So we just put it all out on the table? Should we call Fran?
Well,
Is it
it's-
informal or wait till it's a
Well-
more?
I just don't see how we can, in good conscience, in good faith, not add a plainly audible definition of some sort. There are just too many reasons not to do that way. There are just too many reasons to have a plainly audible definition, right? Needs to clarify regulations, gets everyone on the same page, reduces volume limits, establishes a long-term policy without a limit, a hard limit. However it's determined, there's no policy. It's just like everyone's going to, we assume everyone's going to play nice.
Exactly.
Right? We needed to make enforcement more consistent and predictable. We needed to enable self-regulation by businesses. We needed to enable proper reporting by residents. We needed to provide plainly audible standard for a single plainly audible standard for both bylaw and entertainment regulations, for fairness for all. Without it, I don't think we get fair. We could, but it's not part of a policy. We don't allow residents to enjoy their homes. This is all the same stuff we did last week. It still allows residents, businesses outdoor entertainment. Adding one of these definitions honors the 2016 public hearing, and it fulfills the committee's charge. I think if we don't do this, we're not fulfilling our charge. Maybe I'm overreading, but I really think that in good faith, we have to come up with some definition, or punt it to the selectmen for them to do it, which is probably,
Can I just ask you something?
yeah,
So your neighbors
yeah.
that you've been in contact with, you said that they're willing to play nice. What does that mean? How do you interpret what they
Well,
mean by
they're
that?
willing, they hate calling the police. They really don't like it.
Mhm.
They also hate hearing, like that, the fight or flight thing.
Yeah, yeah.
You first hear a bit of music and you go panicky. But they're willing to, like, and it might be different 3 months from now, but right now, they say they're willing to, like, if it doesn't get too loud, and they're not counting distance, they're saying they'll play. They aren't gonna call the police.
So they
Some-
have that low-level buzz, that low-level
If it's
kind
not,
of...
if it's not crazy.
Right.
You know, some people are inside, some people are out.
Mhm.
I think some are willing to call the venues first, some aren't. I don't really know. Some have some limited interest in that. And some, I think, are willing and can be persuaded to work with their neighbor businesses to set up like decibel monitors. Like, you know, if I have to be a go-between, I'd be thrilled to do that. But that's outside our charge. But
Yeah.
But it's something I and other people would probably be happy to do. So I think residents are not out to get the businesses. They really aren't. They want the businesses to succeed, but they want to live, right? They want to live in Harwich just like everybody else does.
So do you think some type of a definition coupled with quicker sanctioning would be something that...
Yeah, for certain, for certain. I think decibel monitors, I don't know if they'd work, but I think that would be definitely worth trying. I think they'd definitely be worth trying. And for Jake, here's what they look like. Sarah took my other copy. So
That was a different one?
No, it's the same way I gave to Sarah before. They're just on Amazon. So they're like $100 each.
Try to see.
Understands your ones, but I think something like this would start to get people thinking. Even if they don't work perfectly, even if your guys are shouting at them, at least you start to get a sense of where the boundaries are, where the noise that's going to be trouble. Right. So I really hope we can, you know, that I know the residents want the column 3, and I don't see there's a whole lot of difference between column 2 and column 3 except the lyrics test. And I don't think
There isn't.
I don't think you guys plan to
That's
do
the
that,
problem.
right?
No, not if you put any sound in there.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, there will still be some subjectivity,
Right.
obviously.
Right.
It needs to be guidelines for everybody, and people have to follow them, so.
Well, I'm going to throw my hat in the ring. I'm leaning towards, I know our charge says to define it, but do number 1 and then do the tough sanctioning. Because, you know, because it's too bad we can't have moved this to like the May where we could do a field trip and go out and listen to what exactly is too loud. Because I have no idea. I don't live by you. Do you know what I mean? So it's hard for me to figure out you know, why it's so loud in that area or why people are complaining. I don't know. I go down and have dinner and then I go to my home and, you know, it doesn't bother me, so it's a
Yeah, for
whole
sure, for
different,
sure, yeah.
whole different thing. So I don't want to,
So what would the compliance standard be? What would be the threshold? Is it still
Exactly,
Is it still the lyrics? I mean, we need a threshold.
exactly, it's,
It's, no, I don't think it doesn't have to be lyrics. My hope, maybe I'm an optimist, that the businesses turn it down and the officers responding, if there's a complaint and if they think it's, okay, I can't understand the lyrics, but I can definitely hear this, like, with no problem. And it says plainly audible on the thing, not defined, but
It's loud.
that's a violation.
And I
you
think
know?
too, we all heard, everyone, the neighbors want the music turned down, so if they come up with, as Angela just said, a stricter violation recommendation, we've all heard the businesses that have had the challenges are doing things. So, okay,
We
so
hope.
then we put in the stricter violations and
can I just, I will say, when I went to the Ember hearing, the 3 violations they had, they were in violation, but there was no, police did not go back. They did turn the music down. So when they were there and they determined it was too loud, they did turn it down. So, I mean, they were,
I think
Trying.
adding the stricter violation things, that's showing also that we're doing something to, you know,
I mean, if it's a bad summer or a bad spring, we can reconvene and relook at it if people aren't complying, or if businesses aren't complying.
Complying to what? That's the problem.
To keeping the noise, the volume
Businesses
down.
know that they're aware of the people who are complaining. They've been made aware, and this has been formed, it's been discussed. I think it's been discussed pretty, especially this at an exhausting level, where it's not frustrating, but it's like, come on, we hear you too. We're not out here trying to upset our neighbors. We're trying to keep, we want to keep this, let's turn it back up. Oh, if you go to a different definition, you're going to have someone who one night might be playing pretty quiet because there's no cars on the street, there's nobody walking around, and then the next time they play, they might have to turn it up. Or they may be playing quiet and the wind blows it, and because someone can hear it, they get a violation out of nowhere. I think, if I were to vote right now, you put me on the spot, I would vote to leave it as is.
Yeah, it's not putting anyone on the spot, it's just trying to figure out where everybody stands, like, just put it out there,
Yeah.
Because we keep going
So,
around and around.
I would say, just based on, well, what you said, every year it's actually gotten a little bit better. So if
No, but-
2018 to 2019 was better, we haven't seen what 2020 is going to offer.
2017 to 2018 got worse.
2017 to 2018 got worse.
That's what I called.
2018 to
But it got-
2019 got better.
Yeah.
So, okay.
It did.
But we're trending
we-
upward. We're trending in the right direction.
Right. That's
Is
exactly
what
what
is
I'm
the
saying.
point you're
Yeah.
trying to make.
So, but that is a sign, and I think with the existence of the meeting and with the conversations we've had with Sarah, knowing that what she's planning on doing to help mitigate the sound, that there is, I think it does make sense to go with the first one to see how it works because of the conversations we've been having, because everybody's been here talking about it, the residents and the businesses, that, but then, come May or June, if we see that, even the heavier sanctions aren't producing any results, then maybe you go back and say, okay, well, we gave them all the benefit of the doubt based on the conversations we've been having, and maybe with the heavier sanctions, and if it doesn't work, then take a look at it.
Okay, so I think we need a threshold that's different than what
Mhm.
currently exists.
Yeah, no, I understand.
I think businesses, I don't mean this to come out wrong, but businesses, we've got, everyone, all these guys are restaurants, right? They're running restaurants and bars. And I used to work in restaurants a bunch of years, and getting through a service is tough. A busy service, it's a lot of work. They don't have you don't have time to deal with music, right? But when you start, once you get outside, you start having outdoor entertainment, I think you gotta up your consideration level, you gotta up your awareness of the neighbors, and you have to make that additional step. So it doesn't necessarily fall on you, but on the port, to have, not you, but the port to take in better consideration of the neighbors. And I don't know how to make that happen.
I mean, if you're speaking on the port, we had no violations last year, and as the manager of the restaurant, this doesn't mean I'm just running food. I'm
Right.
doing everything. That's
Right.
that's something that's a huge part of our business that we absolutely put adequate help towards. We have
Okay.
doormen, we have extra bartenders, we have managers on the floor, we have tons of
Okay.
staff at all times. I mean, it's a huge part of our business. You know, yeah, we're a restaurant that provides food and drinks, but we also provide live entertainment. It's like
Yeah.
part of our business model. So.
Okay, so my experience of my next door neighbors weren't quite aware of their effect on neighbors in the past. This goes back a few years. And I don't know if that's the case in that neck of the woods. I don't think that's the case at the Perks at all. But I think we need a standard. I think we have to eliminate the lyrics test at a minimum. I would prefer that we go down the middle path. Even though the residents want the door number 3, I think number 2 is a workable and fair and, fulfills our obligations. I just can't see, how do you do self-regulation? How do the decibel monitors set? What level do you set it to? I mean, how do you set that? When do residents know when to call if there's no plainly audible standard? Or if we use decibel meters sometime down in the future? But how do we know what standard?
Well, that would be a lot easier, because then you could actually
Well, no,
do tests and see what the level is and come up with it. Then you could set a bar in the middle. You could, then I would.
In
I would
some
be-
ways it might be easier. Maybe we'll do
Yeah.
that next year.
You know?
But
Well-
without a standard, without a defined threshold, even vague, plainly audible terms, semi-vague, how do people know how to play to that specification? How do people know how to keep the music down? How do people know when it's too loud? How do the police know when to come in and what to do? And then one of the big problems is this wild subjectivity about lyrics, right? And I don't think we address that. I think it's got to be addressed.
So tell them they can't use the lyric standard.
Well, then what do they use?
Common sense.
Common sense, exactly.
Which I think is what they use every time. I'm guessing. I'm guessing that the lyrics test is probably, maybe it's a reach, but I can't imagine that they're trying to make out every word. It's
Right.
like you either hear it or it's not you either hear it or you don't, but it's either above ambient or it's not. It's not like, oh, is that new song that my friend was
No.
playing the other day? It's not like that.
My understanding is sometimes it does get like that.
I don't have a problem with issuing a directive saying, listen, the lyrics test is upsetting people. You guys need to settle on something else. Please apply common sense, but it does not mean it's not a violation just because you can't hear all the lyrics. I can try and define things further within common sense guidelines, but.
I mean, if you
That's a
can't
lot
hear the
of-
lyrics, but it's a loud electric guitar, it's obviously above ambient noise, like,
Right.
if you can hear them singing, but you don't know what they're saying, you can still hear them singing, like, I just don't think the lyrics thing is that much to be hung up on.
So reasonableness is another problem, because reasonable is different for different people. An officer who comes by once every 2 weeks on a noise report, looks at someone, I've seen this happen, playing at the minnow, doesn't seem loud, seems like the kind of level you would expect to hear inside, so it's just like regular performance, but it carries. And so someone in my backyard who hears that every night saying, geez, can I get a break one of these days?
Right.
Right? So it's a whole different, reasonableness really looks different to different people. And for you walking down, going to Perks, and you hear the music, and you're thinking, boy, this is nice and reasonable.
No, if I can hear it at the end of the parking lot when I go in there, I'll say,
Turn it down.
too loud,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And I know they do go out into the parking lot and listen and stuff like that, so, and they have tried, you know?
Oh, yeah, I've been a
And-
witness to that.
And so,
Mhm.
I don't know, there was something I was gonna say, I don't remember what it was, but.
Sorry, Malcolm.
No, it's okay. So, yeah, I was going back to, right, and we'll go back to the minnow, because that bothered you, and you complained, rightfully so. And because of it, they got a bunch of violence, and they said, this isn't worth it, we shut it down. So, I mean, I think that system worked.
Mhm.
But it didn't.
Why? What didn't work
It
there?
didn't work for them, because it shouldn't have been shut down. And
Well,
it
they
didn't
could've
work-
they could've
didn't work for us 'cause
redone
we
their
had to call
music.
so- We didn't just call them, we called the venues, it wasn't just them, it was coming from everybody.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We're hearing from Port, we're hearing from
Yeah,
Perk, not
yeah.
from Port, actually. We're hearing from Perks,
Yeah.
we're hearing from Ember, and it's like, when Minnow didn't play every night, but we were getting clobbered.
Right,
Because it's way up there, but what is way up there? What is that threshold?
right. And then you worked with Perks and kind of got it down a little bit, enough so most of the time it's pretty good. Sometimes you hear it
Yeah,
or
yeah,
whatever.
so
And that
that was-
seems, I like that, you
Well,
know?
in part-
Whereas opposed to the other neighbor, their property starts 100 feet from the venue. It's a little tougher. But if they're willing to work with them, I think you won't have any problems. Those were the two violations last year at that one place.
So in part, I think what happened with the noise going down this last season had to do with the formation of the committee. So people got wise to the fact that noise was a real problem.
Yeah.
So the committee goes away in December. Does the noise start sneaking up because we don't have a policy? Because I think what we need is a
Can't.
policy, and that's in our charge, right? We have to figure out a policy.
We can reconvene if we find that it doesn't work and get a little harsher.
We can't in 2021.
Well, we can after the summer.
If
We
the
can't,
if the selectmen tell you you're still a committee, they did that with the parking committee.
right, until
You guys are still a committee?
Yeah.
our term expires the 31st of December, 2020.
Yeah, so I'm saying we need a long-term policy, and if.
But why can't this start, like what Angela just said, start it out? Right now, we're in March, there's no music, there's no noise.
Right.
So start with this, with the stricter violation recommendations, and then come June 30th. Okay, if no one's had anything, call it even after July 4th, give it then it's working. But there's gotta be some.
But is it a policy? Is it like,
Well, there is. It's just
I think
saying.
residents deserve some assurance.
Board didn't ask you guys to create a policy.
It
Thank you.
Doesn't it say that?
We
No.
want you to make a recommendation.
Recommendation.
We're not asking you to make the policy. We make the policy.
No,
We're the
but-
licensing board. So if you guys are deadlocked, take a vote and bring it to us as a suggestion. But if you're gonna go on in the circle.
Right.
I mean, at some point, Bob,
Right.
I know clearly what you want. Every member here has a different thought. If you're deadlocked on that, come back to the board with it. We're gonna debate this fairly heavily. But we don't want you to make the policy, we want you to make a recommendation. We've heard from the police chief. And we are gonna debate this. It's you guys gonna make recommendations. And then it's really gonna be up to the board to make a decision on what they wanna do. But if you guys are deadlocked on definition, you're gonna talk about it over and over again. If you want to, fine. But we're gonna make the policy.
I know.
Based on your suggestions.
Right.
And maybe the
I
board,
mean,
maybe
that-
4 members of our board or 3 members of our board want to make a more strict policy than you want. I mean, it can go anywhere. So we're going to take your recommendations. We're going to hear from you. We're going to hear from Bob again. He handed out something the other night and spoke about it and read it. A lot of great suggestions in there. Other residents have called. And we do keep speaking of the residents. There's a lot of residents in this town. Some for, some against. Your email chain is one chain. There's another email
I'm
chain.
not on anymore.
Okay, there's a Bob's email chain, there's another chain. Bob had done a graph a couple of years ago with a yellow circle around it and identified properties inside of that. There's a lot of information. And the board will debate it.
How about this? How about, we leave as is, punt to the selectmen, come up with the recommendation for, as you were saying, with the stricter violations, and then have a recommendation that we do reconvene, after Memorial Weekend, or then after the, in June, just to get an update and see how it's going.
How about, for starters, we come up with some recommendation that you guys have a directive, I don't know who sent the directive to who, but that we eliminate the lyrics test. That's workable, right?
Yeah, I'm the one that says it.
Yeah.
But can we recommend to the BOS?
Oh, believe me, that message is clear.
Yeah, he's gonna do it.
And I think that's fair. I think, that especially if you're gonna stick with the first version, I think it's fair that I take that extra step and say, listen, folks, this is what's coming out of the Noise Containment Committee. The neighbors feel that the lyrics test is unworkable, and some may be applying it, some may not be. You know what I mean? I would say majority, they all talk. So, but I think, don't sell common sense and reasonableness short on the street. Cops do it from day one. And I think they've been doing a good job. It's just a very difficult, contentious situation to wade into. And, they've done the best they can. But I can certainly define that for them.
So my thought is that heavier sanctions for violations, and then suggesting that maybe websites, business websites, say, if you have a problem with music, give us a call, non-confrontational, that type of thing, put it out to the public that they can call. Make it maybe a mandatory, what, for the ABCC?
The ABCC meeting that we do, they go
Yeah.
over everything. Majority of them come, but I guess this year we just tell them it's mandatory.
It's actually a town of Harwich meeting.
Yeah.
ABCC
Oh, okay.
attends.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I don't know.
she's- But yeah, it's,
Yeah.
we do it with all the different departments, but it's heavily into the licenses and everything going
Right.
over, sign permits and what you can have on the street, what you can't, it's the whole litany of stuff.
But maybe make it mandatory for the,
I would say,
entertainment.
if I can interrupt, my suggestion on that would be make it mandatory for the pouring establishments at least.
Right, yeah.
Because that's, we're talking noise from there. I feel almost bad for all the package stores that show up every year because we're hardly talking to them at all.
Right.
It's all the noise issue and potential serving issues and,
Right.
you know what I mean? It's certainly welcome and they do attend on a regular basis, but I would say mandatory for the pouring establishments makes perfect sense.
Something like that.
Yes.
And then go over and over the noise and the violations.
Stricter sanctions, but quicker
Mhm,
for
absolutely, yeah.
hearing sides.
I'm still not clear on what the standard is for the level of noise. Where do we get that? Where does that come from?
It's what it is now. And
But
what,
Minus the lyrics test.
right.
Oh, that's good.
With the directive.
Yep.
From the chief.
He could come out with a directive that,
Yes.
So, do we not want decibel monitors? Because how do you use decibel monitors? What's,
I don't know anything about it. We had there should be one maybe tested or something. I don't know how it works or what it does.
Even if-
Where you plug it in, where you position it, I have no idea on that. I can't tell someone to get a decibel monitor without even knowing anything about it. It monitors decibels. From where and how close to what level?
Maybe if we have the meeting in June or July or whenever we decide to reconvene again, if that becomes an issue or there's still a music issue, then we can actually test the decibel.
I doubt there's going to be an issue. I think people are going to be on best behavior for the rest of the year. That's next year what happens. And if
Next
we don't, yeah,
So
2021.
why can't we give everyone?
But if it's a great year, you're still gonna be upset that you didn't come up with the standard you're looking for.
Well, if it
But
goes
but
downhill,
if it goes great, how is there any way you're gonna be
Can't.
like, well, it's definitely gonna go
I
down?
can't.
Like,
No, you're
Everyone's
right.
gotten into this room on various accounts and various times. Everyone knows what the end result is and what everyone wants. So why can't we give everyone the benefit of the doubt? Try this, do what the chief says, the heavier sanctions, give it a shot. Come here July 2nd. If that's a Tuesday, let's have a meeting and say, okay, this is what happened. Guess what, guys? It all worked. Then we all did what we were supposed to. And we're all enjoying a great thing.
I just
I'm
don't see-
always
I
half
didn't-
full, sorry.
Yeah, well,
I give everybody the benefit of the doubt.
residents aren't getting the benefit of the doubt.
Yes,
on
they
this.
are.
How so? They're assumed
Because,
like that.
because everyone, Perks is spending all kinds of money to put in their system of how they're gonna buffer the sound. Ember and Port are doing the same thing.
Is that true? Are you guys making changes?
They put in
Physical
the hut,
changes?
the thing, they're working on how they're gonna put
Yes,
speakers and such.
we did, we put a shell for the musicians, and like we said, there were 0 violations after that was put in. So if that's not building something, and I mean, I think
It is,
that's,
sounds like it is.
and
Is anything at the port, is any changes there?
what changes do we have to make?
Oh, because you didn't have the violations.
Yeah,
You know, like-
they're sort of enclosed, they got a good thing there, you know.
Okay, so
And
some
so
other.
they've all
Can I-
heard what the residents wanted them to turn it down, so that's what they're gonna do. So why can't we do this and have it with the heavier sanctions? And then reconvene after this, so that everyone can say in another meeting with everyone, thank you for listening to us. Or, nope, you know what, it didn't. Can we just, then we try it again. Why can't we
You
try
know
that?
how much effort residents have gone through to get to this point? And then it feels to them, I'm telling you what it feels like to them, and to me, that the committee's not listening to them. So that's what,
We
okay,
are,
we're-
but we're also gonna come up with stricter sanctions. So if they have violations, they're gonna be penalized for it. They're gonna have to go in for a
Right.
rehearing. We haven't even gotten to that piece yet.
And that's what I'm getting at, so I was saying this,
So-
let me just say one thing.
Yeah, thank you.
So, I mean, it's not like they completely blew off the neighbors and didn't do anything. There were violations. There were. Maybe there would have been more at Perks or whatever if the people thought they'd get somewhere. I don't know. So maybe they would get more calls this year, but I mean, it's not like nothing happened.
well, I'm definitely in favor of having a more novel definition.
Okay.
Can I add a couple more things?
Sure.
We talked about the training sessions. I would like to see decibel monitors. I don't know what the heck good they would do without a standard, but it might be worthwhile.
Mhm.
It might be
Um,
worthwhile to get one and
Sarah
then-
said she would try it out.
and then figure it out,
Yeah.
because I don't know. I mean, I
Sarah
have no
said she
idea.
was
Yeah.
willing to do
They'll do
that.
it, it's
but
$100.
My last point on those is like, I've worked in restaurants for a long time, in cities, in Miami, in San Diego, in Boston, and I've never seen one being used, ever, at a restaurant, ever, for noise mitigation or anything like that, ever. So, I'm just, it's an idea you have, but I'm just saying I've literally never seen one,
Good.
period.
So I think another proposal that just came out of some discussions this weekend, maybe a ban on noisemakers and crowd noise enhancers like cowbells and karaoke. Could we have bans on that for outdoor entertainment?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I didn't,
Absolutely, yeah, I know the cowbell's gone. Because no one ever said anything. Someone made it for them, they put it up, and they rang it during the World Cup, you know, when they're, because they were watching.
Yeah, it's just.
But I know, but
Yeah.
nobody, if that person had come over and said, could you get rid of that thing, they would have done it in 2 seconds.
has anyone done karaoke? Not that, I'm
No.
not saying you shouldn't do it.
No,
I'm just
yes,
curious.
there was. There was a wedding party in the fall,
Oh.
and they brought the machine, and nobody knew it was an Indian wedding party, and they were quite adamant with that thing, and it was a nightmare. They
Yeah.
shut
What
it-
if
they
like
shut
a
'em
band
down.
has? I
It's
didn't
true.
mean to interrupt you, sorry.
No, that's okay.
What if a band has a cowbell in there, like, yeah.
Well, if
No,
they're
I'm-
using it to rile up the crowd, that's not right.
Correct, I'm not suggesting they would, like, what's that, Blue Oyster Cult, need more cowbell, like, you know, what if someone has a cowbell? And you make a law that says you can't have one, but I'm not hung up on it at all, it's just, I guess the noise enhancer sounds, like if someone's there with a microphone screaming in it, I understand that, but, like a World Cup match and someone has a cowbell, like, I don't think that's crazy, like, soccer fans go nuts, I'm not
Yeah.
one, but.
But I don't think that's an issue. I think they would be happy to do that. I would, that's just my opinion. I don't know. I think they would. You
Okay,
put
what do
that
you-
in there. You could put it in there. It could be a
Yeah.
recommendation.
Okay, so
No-
we also, I don't know, I don't have a recommendation, but there were a couple enforcement concerns. One is the finale syndrome, because from like 9 or 9:15 on, it starts cranking up. And officers are busy probably about that time. They don't have time to go around and cut that down, but how do we approach that?
Yeah, I don't disagree. That should just be the same level. Yeah.
But it's not.
No, I agree,
Yeah.
I actually agree with you, because sometimes I notice that
Yeah.
they do turn it up in the
Just
last half hour, we can't get a violation now.
Right.
That's just gonna be, that's not gonna be tolerated, you can't do it. Because otherwise, it's just gonna be back here to where, none of them wanna be back here, to going through what we're going through,
So-
and trying to get heavier sanctions and things like that. So I think that's not gonna happen.
So Chief, is there any way to be more proactive about that, or is it, you guys all strapped on that kind of stuff?
It's on a night-to-night basis. We had some documented, there probably would have been violations, say at 10:02, but the officer lived there for 16 minutes.
I'm just gonna take it in case
Tied
it's
up on
hot.
something else.
Excuse me.
So it's a night-to-night basis. I mean, again, I can try and, make the recommendation and have the supervisors, follow through, that they swing by, half an hour prior to closing if they're not tied up. You get into a whole different area here to realize that, right? Because we haven't done proactive violations yet. It's because there's
Undercover?
plenty of them as a result of call-ins, right? This is another thing that is going to crank your violations up, right? So, not that I'm saying, I understand where you're coming from, and proactive policing is definitely, a piece of what we do. But when it comes to this particular issue, if we start looking the last half hour, they're going to be finding them.
So, I don't think, I know it's tough for you guys to have violations. I don't think violations are necessarily a bad thing. I think, especially if they're followed through, so if we...
I'm just saying,
Yeah.
it's going to be a change in the amounts, and I know that's, probably what you're looking for. What you're actually looking for is to try and keep the even keel instead of
Right.
the cranking it up.
Yeah.
That's,
So maybe
I guess without even understanding it, this is the first time I'm really hearing you say that, but I do understand that phenomenon. I think I see it in the violations, or the complaints as you go through them. So, yes, we can try and proactively address that depending on the availability of the officers.
So I think that's, and I agree with you.
One sec,
go
Fran, can
ahead.
you hear us?
It's hard to hear the chief, but it's better, I can hear better the people around the table.
Okay, when the chief speaks again, I'll hold the telephone closer to him.
Okay, thank you.
Uh-huh.
Bob, you're right. Bands, or let's say bands, musicians do tend to near the end of their sets, to try to rile people and stuff. And it's just going to be an education thing, because they don't want, the businesses do not want these violations. And if it makes sense, it's getting near 10 o'clock, you don't want the noise getting cranked up.
So,
I think, if I can make like a last point on that, I think it's like a natural occurrence though for musicians, like they usually save their best for last. Or, like a musician doesn't come in and I don't say, hey, play your soft ones, then play a lot. They have a set that they set up and they come in and they play it. I think every show or act that a musician has done in the history of time, they end with a bang. Or I'm not saying louder. I'm not saying louder, but that's their finale or whatever it is. So I think it's like somewhat naturally occurring. I don't think it's necessarily like people trying to get louder, at the end.
But they should be educated not to,
Right.
to
Sure.
just try and keep it at the level playing field. There's been no complaints all night. Don't bring any on
Yep.
board at the very end. Just keep it at the same volume.
I'm just trying to picture like a musician about to play his last. Hey, this is my last song, guys, and everyone there like really enjoyed it.
I know.
There's no way they're gonna be like, okay, we'll be quiet.
Well,
they're
no,
gonna
just
be-
keep it at the same volume,
Yeah, of course.
as much as possible. I think that's,
Or the business is gonna have to turn down the amp if they wanna play it louder. It's really up to the business, not the band, to keep the volume down.
okay, gotcha, we heard you.
Right.
yeah.
All right.
So, there are two competing ideas, and I know we're just going around on this, but keeping it, we have one where we stay with this current standard and hope that the businesses come down. And we have another one where we introduce a new standard and hope that the residents don't call too often.
Fran, Fran,
Yes.
where we are is, we're actually back to square one, where we always are, but my personal opinion is to leave it as is and then go heavy on the sanctions, because the past summer, the businesses seem to have really been trying to keep their volume down. Other people have different opinions. I think Heather might feel, hey, Heather can speak for herself.
Yeah, I think we're just a little concerned after hearing, from the chief that we don't want businesses to get peppered with violations without at least giving them an opportunity to adjust based on the creation of this committee and some of the mitigating steps that they've already put forth to help buffer the sound. That we start with a path that's a little less restrictive to see how it goes, and then, as Cindy suggested, to reconvene when the music's actually playing sometime in the summer to see if it's working.
Those are good ideas. I still feel that we have a definition of plainly audible in the noise bylaw. We need to put a definition of plainly audible in the entertainment license. What if we said that that definition would take effect the 1st of July? And that would give the businesses from Memorial Day through June, and that they would know what the plainly audible definition, and I'd be willing to compromise with the one in the middle, the simple one, if that definition was going to come into effect the 1st of July.
Okay.
I think the businesses, that should satisfy the businesses. They will give them a month to figure out how to turn down the volume, and then they know that effective the 1st of July, we have a definition that's going to be put into effect.
The only thought that I had on that, Fran, that just popped into my head, July is when it all kind of starts, so I'd almost say let's do maybe July 10th or July, only because the music isn't even started then, I don't think.
I'm okay with that.
That sounds fine by me. July 10th.
We've got to have the music at least start.
So they don't have bands in June?
I don't know.
Yeah, some weekends.
Some weekends, but school's not even out, so they haven't even really ramped up.
Yeah.
Okay, so what if we said July 10th, or what's the Friday closest to,
Hang on, Cindy's looking. I don't want to do my phone in case I cut you off.
July 10th would be a Friday.
perfect. The definition of plainly audible, and that middle definition there would take effect in all entertainment licenses on July 10th.
That's a thought.
Mm-hmm.
I suggest we move
I
for
thought so,
vote.
too.
I think we should move for a vote.
I think, I thought we were doing the first one with the heavier sanctions, the chief giving a directive with no lyrics test, not the middle one. We were doing the first one with the stricter, heavier sanctions, and then do this July 10th thing.
And July 10th.
No,
I
that's not what Fran said.
No, I
That's
just
what
said,
Cindy-
I thought that's what we were doing. I didn't say
That's what
Fran
you-
said that.
Okay.
Okay, no, I'd go with the stricter one, so that would be the one on the, in the chart, the one on the right.
No, the one on the left.
The no change. What Fran was talking about is implementing
Right.
the middle one.
That's what
And
Fran
the-
had just said, and I said prior to that, before Fran came on the phone, everyone so far, other than yourself, was leaning towards this one with the heavier sanctions, the chief then giving a directive with no lyrics. So then I said, I thought that's what we were doing. I did not say Fran said it.
Okay, but you then said something about July 10th.
Right. And then add-
The July 10th part was part of Fran's
And
going
I
down the
was
middle.
saying, and let's add that to what we had discussed.
To the
That's what I was
stricter
saying. I was
sanctions.
having a conversation.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Yeah, I think everyone deserves to speak how they feel about it without immediately
Let's just vote
hearing a
on what
rebuttal.
we want.
You know, we can rebuttal everything you say too. A
Okay,
lot of
I'd
people
like-
choose not to. So,
Let's just vote on that.
All right.
No, we're voting on not just that.
We did a whole bunch of stuff. So Fran's point on the July 10th thing, which started off at the end of June, was attached to the idea of the plainly audible one. It was not attached to the first one where there's no plainly audible definition. Right? That was Fran's point, if I understood things right. And so it's already easy enough with the first one, and then adding something that was intended for the middle one doesn't wash.
Yeah, I'm confused.
All right.
I'm actually confused too, sorry. I don't know, I just want to make sure I understand what Fran was saying clearly. You were suggesting at some point in July to automatically implement it, not revisit it and discuss implementing it. Is that what you were
No,
saying?
automatically, it would be implemented, the plainly audible definition would be implemented on July 10th.
Gotcha.
All right.
That's interesting.
Do I move for vote on
Right, so-
definition, or what do you?
Bob, what's your opinion
Yes.
on that?
I don't, I think
Second
that,
that.
Move for vote?
Yep,
wait a minute, what are we voting on?
Which definition you want?
I mean, we can talk, we
I know.
talk and talk and talk and
But wait a
talk,
minute,
we have to eventually
okay,
vote.
what happened to Fran's suggestion? Did we just drop that?
No, we can,
Okay, are we talking about that?
if you'd like to. Fran's suggestion is to have the plainly audible, the second definition, come into effect sometime in July. I don't want, personally, I'd like to do the first one with harsher sanctions, and then we can revisit it. I just want to plug around in case you
No,
want to choose.
my motion is
Okay.
the plainly audible definition to be implemented and included in all entertainment licenses after July 10th,
Okay.
or on July 10th.
So, okay, so you want the second definition, just to be clear, and have a grace period until July 10th when that second definition would be implemented,
It's the harsher definition with no lyrics test, yes.
the middle one. The middle one on the sheet, I just want to be clear that we're putting you down for the correct,
I had it, yes, but before I got on the phone, were most people in agreement to do the one with the more lengthy definition?
no, we were on the left, we were leaving it as is, and then
Right.
having harsher sanctions. You want the middle one?
I want the middle one.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right, the middle one, but a grace period before July 10th, and July 10th, that, or thereabouts, that's when you would want that definition implemented.
Yes.
Okay, all right.
So is that, are you motioning that?
Hang on, Heather, did you get that?
I did,
I did make
yeah.
a motion to that effect.
Okay,
I'll second it.
okay. So where do we go now? Did
Do we
we
wanna
vote?
vote on it?
Yeah, we want to vote.
On that?
Now it's open for discussion.
Oh, good point.
Just- I have nothing to discuss on that.
Right,
You
I
don't like
don't
it?
at this point.
no. I mean, it's a out-of-the-box idea, but I don't agree with it.
Okay.
You may as well
That's-
just go to that definition from the beginning, because I don't see what it's gonna do once you come out of it.
Hang on,
So now, I don't need to hear it. Now all you do is just call for the vote.
okay.
If it's a negative vote, then somebody
way I
else could
feel
make
is if
another
any-
vote.
Hang on, Fran.
Okay.
So all you do now is just call for the vote, write down, or take a minute, take down a vote. If
Okay.
it doesn't pass, somebody else could make a motion.
Gotcha.
And then you'll vote on that.
Okay, so we're going to vote on your motion, Fran, okay?
Okay. One more comment?
Yeah.
on it? The way I feel is if anybody doesn't want a definition of plainly audible in the entertainment license, to me that means they don't want the businesses to have to turn the volume down.
That's
Because
not,
I
it.
think-
That
I
is
think a
not it at
definition of
all,
plain-
Fran.
I think a definition of plainly audible is gonna help the businesses to know what volume is gonna be acceptable or not.
Okay, thanks, Fran. We're going to take a vote on your motion then, okay?
Okay?
All those in favor of Fran's
Aye.
two, opposed? Aye. Okay. Your motion didn't pass.
Yeah.
That was a great idea. All right,
The compromise.
yeah.
I propose a motion to leave as undefined in the entertainment license for the businesses.
Okay, I second that motion,
Oh.
I guess.
But with-
With,
with-
along with, coming up with recommendations for quicker and
Heavier
two-tier sanctions probably, yes.
Okay,
And the lyrics test directive.
Right.
from the chief.
Chief to give directive with no lyrics test, heavier sanctions.
That's fine, I'll agree with that.
Okay. So.
Who seconded that?
Second, okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. So the motion passes.
Do we want to vote on that two-tier thing? Did we come up with the, because that was next.
Yeah, and
Everybody put their-
ideas weren't off, were not far off either on
Right.
terms of, it's just, I've got yours in front of me, Fran. Your,
Yep,
do you have that in front of you?
I know what it is.
Okay. Got that. I have, do you have
That's
Heather's?
it.
Yep.
Okay. And this is yours and you put this together, Fran?
That's what she sent me.
Oh, okay, okay. It's the same thing.
So Bob and Fran's were the same.
Yeah. And then Walter,
I didn't see Walter's. I liked Heather's. I liked Bob Nickerson's.
Mine was a blend of the two.
I haven't seen that one.
Oh,
Did that get sent around?
sorry.
I sent it to Angela,
yeah,
thank you.
my bad. Walter's was Hi Angel.
Oh, great, I'm great, trying to buddy you up there. Hi,
Exactly.
Angel.
My suggestions for fast track violation option are a mixture of Heather, Fran's, and Bob's. The 1st through the 5th would be as Fran and Bob have it.
Pause. Can I go back
Yeah.
to the previous thing? Didn't we say that there was going to be a reconvene as part of this thing?
That's where I was going until I got cut off, but I don't know, I lost that after that.
So do you want to add that in, a reconvene?
We can vote on that. Mm-hmm, absolutely.
Okay, so what's a good date?
When do you want to do it? Do you want to do it?
July 10th.
Okay, you want to do it, wait till July 10th? Okay.
Is that a good time?
That's fine, I
Or
don't,
we can-
That's where I was going with it, until I totally got blasted on that.
I'm
That's
sorry,
where-
I apologize.
That's where I was trying to get, because that's what I was trying to get with combining the two, because the music starts in early July. So if we reconvene as a group to see, and invite the residents in, invite the businesses in, to see how it did work for those 2 weeks, that's where I was going.
I think we should do that.
I think that's a good idea. Fran, do you hear that?
Yep.
Okay.
So July 10th.
It's a Friday.
Mhm.
Do we need to make a motion or just do
Yeah,
it?
You have to vote,
Yeah.
correct? Yeah, I want to make
I
sure we
move
do
that
it
we
right.
reconvene on July 10th
I
to
second it.
reevaluate.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 All those opposed?
Aye.
Opposed or for?
Opposed.
Opposed.
To reconvene, July 10th.
Yeah,
Opposed.
opposed, okay. So the motion passes.
Yeah, not being there, I'm just curious, who was against that?
Jake,
I'm against it.
Okay.
all right.
It's a tough day, it's Friday.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's,
Oh, geez, you'll probably be working.
Yeah.
I mean,
Is it another day?
it already passed.
Well, we can
revote.
Is it a better day for you?
Yeah.
You know,
Okay,
it's
we
not,
already-
it's
we
not really
already
about
passed
going
the
around my
vote.
schedule,
We
I
already
just am
passed
opposed
the
to it.
vote.
Okay.
Okay,
That's
all
fair.
right.
You know, I think like, what if a bunch of residents decide, okay, if we make a lot of noise until July 10th, then something's gonna happen, they're gonna have to reconvene. Like, I think that's not setting us up well, but.
Yeah, I mean,
That's
I
why I
have
feel that
faith
way.
in everybody doing the right thing.
Yeah.
I mean, we just have to, and I don't know what else to say. It's just trying to make it work for everybody, and we're not gonna make everybody happy, and I don't think I'm hoping people don't do that,
Me too.
ramp up the complaints. We're all adults here, so we'll see how it plays out. Did we want to talk about the violations?
Right.
Yes.
So you were telling, it was
Oh,
Walter?
Walter's like 1 through 5 of your and Fran's, and then 6 of Heather's.
Yeah, because,
So I
Just-
don't
I
have
just
that
go-
thing, I don't have them in my
Oh,
head.
so the sixth one was,
What's 1 through 5?
here.
it's just the loss of days,
Okay.
just
Yeah,
like
this
you
is
guys
what you
had.
guys came up
Yeah, just what you guys had. The only thing I got rid of was just like Heather had said, why have the 6? Because nobody's going to pick it. It's just loss of license. Yeah, yeah, I'll take that. And it's just nobody's going to take that. It just,
Did you read it?
I
The-
I saw yours.
Yeah.
Yeah, the point after 5 is that there's probably an issue and it needs to go to the Board of Selectmen. And that
Yes.
no one's gonna opt to suspend their license, in my opinion.
Yeah,
Why would
they
anyone
do.
fast track their license going?
So we
away?
have an automatic suspension at number 6.
It's not,
No.
but this is,
Not
remember,
in
all
there.
this is an option.
Yeah.
To do this instead of going
hearing,
to
okay.
a
Instead of a
hearing, so
hearing.
why would,
yeah, nobody's
you know,
gonna
it
do
just,
that.
I just thought it wasn't
So
necessary.
you don't really need it in there because you're going to go to hearing.
I
Oh,
think, I think.
you may go to hear
yeah,
before
violation
Hang on.
6 is- Yeah.
Go ahead, Fran.
Yeah, I agree with Heather completely. Nobody's going to opt to take that. So if there's a 6th violation, then they have to automatically go to the hearing option.
Right,
Yeah.
that seems reasonable.
And a business may elect to go to the hearing before that,
Right.
too, also.
Right.
After
They always
the-
have the option at a hearing, it's just no need for that fast track.
So we don't recommend any specifics for the hearing at all?
I guess that's, if
Like
everyone,
what Bob Nickerson was saying.
I'm sorry, what did you say?
Bob Nickerson's point last week was that we don't have a schedule for the hearings, that the hearing officer takes care of that.
So if I
Can I
can interrupt
speak?
can I interrupt 1 sec? Can we read, because no one that's listening to the meeting at some point will know what 1 through 5 means, so if someone could read 1 through 5, that'd be awesome.
Is this yours?
Do you want me to read it?
This isn't mine, but this is Fran's. So it was the first violation,
see-
first violation was a warning. Second violation was a 1-day entertainment suspension with 7 days, within 7 days of the violation. The third violation was 2-day entertainment suspension within 7 days of violation. Fourth was 3 days entertainment suspension within 7 days. Fifth violation was 1 week suspension. Entertainment suspension.
So that's Fran's, but what's yours?
Mine was the same 1 through 5 and then getting rid of 6.
No, 6.
And then
And then
electing,
Heather,
having a 2
Heather's
tier.
had $750 for the first one
Okay.
or something.
Yeah, I didn't,
okay, I'll read Heather's. Fran, Heather's suggestions were first violation of warning, second violation, $750 fine or other monetary amount, third violation, 1-day suspension within 10 days of written notice of violation, fourth violation, 2-day suspension within 10 days of written notice of violation, fifth violation, 3-day suspension within 10 days of written notice of the violation. Anything after 5 violations, there's no longer a fast track option. The noise issue becomes a job of the BOS. I think fast track option of suspending the license for a term of 1 year is probably not necessary. What business would opt for that? So,
Yeah.
And then, of course, the hearing officer, they would determine what violations and sanctions and all that occur.
Yeah,
But if it goes to a hearing, that's not for us to
that's correct.
And
say.
if it, and to be honest, if it even goes past 2 or 3 violations.
There's a problem.
I mean, I don't think that's,
What do you mean?
this is great that we're giving a recommendation, but I don't even think it'll go to that before it goes to a hearing anyway.
right, they'll just say, give us a hearing.
Mhm.
I agree.
You know, as Mr. McCaskill said earlier, we put it through the recommendation and then they're gonna all debate it anyway.
Yeah.
Do we want to take a vote on this? Do we want to mull it over, or what is the committee
Well, we
like to
can,
do?
so,
oh, sorry. Should we assess which version we
Mhm,
want
that's-
to go with first?
mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, for
Let's
the-
just take a
Yeah,
vote.
yeah.
Go ahead, Fran.
One comment that would needed to be added to that is the day of suspension of license would be determined by the chief of police, not by the business.
Wait, say that again?
The day that the day of the suspension of license, if they're choosing, okay, I'm not gonna have entertainment for 1 day within 7 days of, or 10 days of the violation, the day that they don't get to have the entertainment is not determined by the business, but it is determined by the chief of police.
I think it actually would end up being the Board of Selectmen, where they're the licensing board.
Okay, the board of selectmen then.
Yeah, that's what I think it would end up being, Fran. I'm not sure, though.
Or the admin, but the point,
But they only meet
Yeah, 'cause
every
it-
other week.
Yeah, no, I know.
Summer. So how about we said the board of selectmen or the chief of police? The board, then that way the select board would have the option to having the police determine.
It would
Okay.
be the selectman or the hearing officer.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Okay.
That's who would do it.
Yeah, it wouldn't be
Not
the
police
chief. It would be the Board of Selectmen or the hearing officer. That just came from Mr. McCaskill.
Okay.
But someone other than the business would determine,
Would determine the day, yeah.
correct. But it would be faster than what's happening now.
Yes.
can I ask Mike something? If we get to a 6 violation, is it possible or wise to do an automatic suspension?
I think that that's something, honestly, that you should let the board decide. Personally, I think if you get to a 6th violation, you're not listening, and/or the violations weren't strict enough getting to the 6th violation. Personally, that's about one board member.
So that, don't even bother with it?
Yeah, I think
Okay.
it's something that,
Because what I'm interested in seeing is not punishing the businesses, it's to get them to comply. Right.
I think personally, this committee has done an outstanding job. I think that this is very difficult.
I can't hear Mike.
Okay, hang on, I'll hold you up.
I think the committee's done an outstanding job. I think this is a very difficult task. I also think that the businesses are listening, have listened, have learned. And I think that coming up with that, I think the violations, it will be very important to the board and the businesses to have a set violation schedule going forward, in my opinion, so that the businesses in May or June, when they have their meeting at the police station, know what the violations are going to be, and they can gauge how much they want to monitor the noise based on what the violations are going to be. That way, we're not having hearings and our hearing officer is making up a violation as we go, or making up what the punishment's going to be as we go. It should be predetermined, in my opinion. The board obviously has to agree on that, but that's my.
So you would have a schedule for the hearing officers, version 2?
I personally think that that's the way we should go. I think it should be a predetermined what it is. So whether it's the perk, whether it's the port, whether it's the lanyard, whether it's anybody, is going to get the same punishment each time because it's laid out. I think it should, personally think it should be consistent
Exactly. It's got to be fair for
and
everybody.
predetermined.
You mean the same punishment as in the fast track? Or whatever you
Whatever
determine
they
would be the
decide.
same in
Determined
the...
should be the same for the perk.
Oh, for
as
each
it is the
business.
lanyard, as it is
Sorry.
to the Colada,
Okay.
as it is to
Yeah.
whoever, Waquasit, whoever it is. It should be the
Sorry.
same every time when they go into a hearing.
Mhm.
They obviously would have a right to appeal, but when we have a hearing, it should be, here's what you're guilty, here's how we proved it, and here's what you're done.
Did you hear that, Fran?
Yep.
Okay.
So in your mind, Mike, would there be 2 tracks with 2 different levels of punishment? If you go the fast track, it's like plea bargaining, and you do the hearing, it would be a stiffer punishment, penalty?
This is us, that's our decision. We're making a
Well, that's
recommendation.
their decision.
No, but he's not going to speak for the board now.
I can't speak
Yeah.
for the board, I can tell you what I think, but I think it's, I think you guys are on the right track in making your recommendation to us to let the board debate, but I think it should be a set, here's what the violation is. I mean, I think you have a right, I think anyone would have the right to appeal anything. But I do believe that the board should be consistent in what the punishment is for the violation.
Okay. Agreed. All right, so you get, what?
So I'm not sure where we are.
So we're at
We're looking at the violations.
1 through 5.
Yeah.
Fast track.
Okay, so are we also going to address the slow track?
I think we should, why don't we just vote on the fast track and say we're gonna have two-tier, let's do that, because I think that's gonna be a longer discussion, because I don't know where we are at that, we're just starting that, what with the slow track. We're gonna give, I didn't know we were gonna give a recommendation to the Board of Selectmen regarding the penalty phase of a hearing.
Yeah, I
To
didn't
me,
know
that's-
we were
that-
allowed
that-
to.
I didn't think that was something we
We
would.
can't,
we
that's
could do.
what they do.
You know, so I didn't know that was even in it. I thought we were just saying, we should have two tracks, and they should, the first one obviously will happen quick. The second one should happen quicker as well, as quick as possible. But I didn't know we had the option to put something in writing.
Okay, so let's break this down. First violation is a warning. We
We're
don't
all-
have
we're all
any
agreed
discussion on that. Second violation, one option is 1-day entertainment suspension within 7 days. Another one, it would be a fine. Another suggestion would be a fine on the second violation.
The reason I suggested the fine is because we've been talking so much about particular businesses in town, but if this is something we're going to be doing moving forward, I just thought, for the sake of any new businesses who are brand new to having live music and trying to dial it in, that they have a fast track option that isn't an immediate loss of entertainment or suspension. So it was just my opinion.
No,
Whatever you
that's-
guys think.
My thought on that, the reason why I took it out was, I mean, it is already a fine to the business, because they're gonna still have to pay the entertainer, whether because they're not there.
Right.
And can be quite a bit of money
Mhm.
right away, you know, and they're not getting, they'll have people that will not show up.
Mhm.
So,
I
it
don't
is
feel,
basically-
I liked Heather's initially, but, you know, why do we want to take money from the business?
Right.
I'd kind of like to see, combine Heather's and mine a little bit, but instead of the money, make it, they've already got a warning, so they're gonna know that they're too loud. So keep mine, but instead of 7 days, put it Heather's 10 days.
So what you're saying is on the second, third, and fourth violations would be 1 day, 2 day, 3 day loss of entertainment, but instead of 7 days, make it 10 days.
That, yeah, because I think that's what Heather had, yeah.
Yeah,
so make it-
okay.
Sure.
Make it 10 days.
And the day would be determined by the
Board of
select,
Selectmen
or
Or
the
the
hearing
hearing
officer.
officer, right. On the now we've got a fifth violation. Your suggestion was 1 week entertainment suspension starting the day after the violation. And Heather's was 3 day suspension within 10 days of written notice of the violation.
Well, I was going with my, I mean, this is just a suggestion
Oh, yeah,
to the
no.
select board. They're gonna determine how they like it anyway, so whether it's mine or Heather's, I'm 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. To me, this is, because really, it's just, you know, an idea to the
Two
select
choices.
board.
Was there two choices? We're talking about the fourth day or fifth day?
Well, we're on the, Fran has the fifth violation, be 1 week entertainment suspension starting the day after the violation. And the other suggestion would be, actually, there isn't a fifth one. I was counting. Because it'd be 1, 2, 3, because you took out the fine.
Well, right.
Yeah,
Oh, I see.
yeah, see what I'm saying? It's
Oh.
kind of doubles up, so we could keep with the fifth.
Where's Walters? Walters the
Walters
same
was
as
just
the
to
same-
take out the sixth violation, the automatic
So the
suspension.
same as Fran's?
Yeah. Except now we're gonna do, instead of 7 day,
Instead of 7 days,
It's
we'll
a big
make it
10.
10 days.
Okay,
Yeah.
so the Walters/Fran version is 1 day, 2 day, 3 day, 1 week.
Yeah.
And that's-
I don't think they'll get to a
1 day,
week.
2 day,
I think they
3
take a
day, 1
hearing,
week.
so,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I don't think any business is gonna get up to 5 violations.
no.
Well,
I think
these things go
you
for
know-
2 years, right? It's a 2-year,
that's what the
It's,
chief
Oh.
said.
it's over 2 years,
Oh,
yeah.
geez, I
But I
forgot about that.
still don't think the businesses are gonna. So I'm gonna make a motion
Okay,
to approve for the fast track, my schedule, but instead of 7 days, change that to 10 days.
Okay.
And remove the 6th violation.
okay, so, and keep the fifth violation, 1 week entertainment suspension starting the
Yeah.
day after the violation.
Yeah,
All
say
right.
that one more time, sorry.
Okay, here, let me give it to
So,
you.
starting when?
Yes.
Starting when?
As soon as they're notified,
Morning, when
it could be a day or late, so later.
Those are all 10 days.
Where is it? Oh, but,
Yeah.
but the violation occurs within, you said it, and then I just.
10 days of violation.
10 days.
Oh, yeah, well, that I
Within
have.
10
yeah. Okay,
days.
sorry.
Okay. Is everybody good
Are we
with
gonna
that?
vote on
We
it?
all understand what,
I'm gonna read it back one more
Okay.
time,
Okay,
just
great,
so we're
great.
all clear. Okay, so the sanctions vote is gonna be, first violation is a warning, second violation, 1-day entertainment suspension within 10 days of violation, third violation, 2-day entertainment suspension within 10 days of violation, fourth violation, 3-day entertainment suspension within 10 days of violation, fifth violation, 1-week entertainment suspension starting the day after the violation.
Or just, I don't know if we should say the day after, but when they're informed by the police that it was a violation.
So when they're
written notification.
Written notifications
Okay.
received, yeah.
starting
Yeah.
1 day after written
And the
notification.
day of the week is determined by the hearing officer, the BOS, right?
Yeah.
For the other
Yeah.
ones.
Did you get that, Fran?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Every Wednesday.
So, and the other one's I'm adding day of the week for the board.
I'm getting hungry.
Yeah.
Hang on. What time is it?
Dinner again.
Oh, no, this, we're gonna vote on this and then we'll move to, if anyone has any comments, and then we'll adjourn. Got that, Fran?
Yep, yep,
Okay. Did you already make a move to vote?
I did.
Oh, she
Okay,
did,
you did.
Brandon,
Second.
second, okay.
Okay. Are we ready?
Sorry. To vote and then Walter second.
Well, I
No, Bob did.
I
No,
made a
Bob
motion.
Yeah, we're waiting for Heather to finish typing.
Sorry.
all
Ready.
good.
Okay.
What the heck?
Did somebody second the motion?
Yeah, I'll
Yes.
second it.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right.
I only have one aye. Dissent?
Nay.
Nay. So the motion passed.
So this will be a recommendation, and then the debate will take with the Board of Selectmen.
Yeah.
We need to, who's the next, are we good with this? Is everybody all right?
Yeah, we still.
Well, we voted it, so that's,
Yeah.
it is what it is.
So we still have the,
Voted, yeah.
So,
the
so what should happen
training.
now is you'll type up what's been agreed, you'll get ready, March 31st, I think, was when we would be on the agenda.
Mm-hmm.
So,
we-
but
But there might be other things for us to do.
Yeah,
Yeah,
are there some other
We're meeting on the
items?
16th.
Meeting on the 16th.
16, okay, yeah.
Those are easy, I think those are gonna be easy
Okay,
ones.
okay. But
Uh,
we still have a few out there.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Our next meeting is on the 16th?
At 5 o'clock.
Okay,
That's all, we already have the room booked.
great.
Mhm. Secretary for next week?
I'll do it.
Okay, Walter? Public
Well, I didn't
comment?
have this week. This is a tough one.
I'll make a couple of points. First, I'm just gonna read the current
Can you hear?
outside violation. It says noise from entertainment must be at reasonable
I'm
sound
not hearing
levels,
you now.
That's-
which are not plainly audible at a distance of 150 feet, blah, blah, blah. It's not that different, okay? I disagree with your choice. I would have gone with number 2 at a minimum, but it's not that different. It doesn't define plenty audible, it says reasonable sound. So the chief is not gonna go with, hear the music or the words, then reasonable sound is very close to that. I think you're gonna get the same thing. That's my first thing. So I really wish you would reconsider the second one, only because why we have 2 definitions in the same town? It makes no sense to me, and they're very much the same. I don't think you're gonna have the impact, any different impact. Second thing, while I propose the fast track, I would have voted with Jake. I think that's too harsh too quickly. I think there needs to be a little lesser, that's my opinion. I know we're trying to say, let's get everybody in line, and I want to, because I'm a resident, and I'm pushing for that. But I think the whole idea with fast track is to give them a chance to respond to what's going on. I don't see how you can ask them to implement it within 10 days when they haven't even got the paperwork within 10 days. You see what I'm saying? So you can rediscuss this later, I'm just giving you my viewpoint. That's it for today.
Okay.
And do you have anything?
Yeah, I do.
Can you just say so Fran knows?
Hi, Al Roberts, Lewis Lane, Harwich Court. regarding their concerns I heard tonight about the veracity of residents on an email list who have concerns about what the committee's doing. For the record, I live over 500 feet from any of the venues that have been spoken about. I do hear the music. I am on the email list. I send email, I receive email, and I'm a real person.
Did you get that, Fran?
I did.
Okay. Does anyone have, anyone want to put anything different on the future agenda? Because I got to type it up tomorrow.
Sorry, very quick. Mr. Roberts, your first name?
Al.
Al, sorry.
Just to talk about just briefly what Mr. Nickerson mentioned. Most likely, what will happen is this recommendation will go in front of the selectmen. It will probably change. It will, most likely, this is going to go closer to the hearing stuff.
Mhm.
That's really what it's going to end up being. So I think just to have a recommendation, we have it, we've done it, and then we'll see what happens.
Okay.
Do we want to talk about the slow track next week?
On the
Yeah.
16th?
Yeah.
Sure. Well, I don't really know how much we can talk about because the Board of Selectmen or the hearing officer determines.
We're not
I
a regular,
thought Mike was saying that we should come up with that and just let them do it. No?
they're gonna do
Yeah.
it. That, we've given our, this is what our recommendation's gonna be. I mean,
Okay.
Our recommendation be, you know, fair and consistent. And then they would determine, I suppose, what their sanction would be.
Guess they're adjourned.
Okay. Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All right.
Aye.
Fran?